Hi, everybody. I'm Julia DiLiberti. I teach humanities at the College of DuPage. I'm also the Global Education Liaison. And today we're going to talk about COVID and jobs and the impact of COVID on jobs and careers. And I'm with two people from Career Services at College of DuPage, two career specialists. I'm with Pierre Michiels and I'm with Melissa Schertz. And they both have these initials CRC after their name. And I'm wondering, first of all, can you tell us a little about who you are and what you do and what that CRC means?
Sure. I'll go first. So I'm Melissa Schertz, career specialist at College of DuPage Career Services Center. I've been with the college since 2012, and I assist job seekers and students with presenting themselves and putting together all of their credentials, so resumes, cover letters, job searching, interview preparation, all of that. And then I'll let Pierre introduce himself and explain the CRC thing, and I'll add to that if there's anything else.
Yeah. So as a career specialist, do the same thing as Melissa. I've been with College of DuPage for just over 3 years here. And that CRC stands for Certified Rehabilitation Counselor. So if you look at that qualification within the state of Illinois, it would be equivalent to an LPC, but it's really training more specific to vocational training with people with disabilities. So that rehabilitation piece coming from if someone is injured on the job or they're in that rehab process of returning to work, going through that process. So it's a vocational counseling degree with an emphasis on disabilities.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
I always like to say, even though that's a specialty of myself and Pierre, we work with all students, but that happens to be, if a student comes to us and they have a question about how their disability might be factored into their career, we can, we're equipped to assist them with that.
Perfect. Okay, great. Good. Okay, well, they're going to talk to us about careers. You guys, my job today here is to be the gloom and doom specialist. And I want to talk a little bit about the worldwide, just a very quick and very depressing glimpse of the world market worldwide, the job market worldwide. And then Melissa and Pierre are going to come in. We're going to bring it back to local, and we're going to talk about, the states and then DuPage County and looking for jobs here. So they're going to be the heroes to my villain today. So I just wanted to start out by mentioning that the Christian Science Monitor has noted that 1.6 billion people are, on their quotation, are on the margins of the world economy, from migrant workers to gig economy workers. And that is actually 1/2 of the world's workforce that is now in danger or that they have been impacted by COVID and the job market. We have, and I was doing a little survey of other countries. In the UK, the job market has been reduced by 13%. In France, 50% or slightly more than 50% of the private sector employees are sort of being paid to stay home. A lot of other countries did what we didn't do, and they put cash and support into their people. And so that's a huge statistic for France. So India, the jobless rate has gone down 27.1%, and that's including people who hawk their wares by the side of the street, right, who are street vendors. China is huge. China does a lot of contract services around the world, and that's had an impact on everybody because fewer things are being contracted, fewer businesses, so they've had a reduction of 60%. Canada has lost 3 million jobs. South Africa, too. This is a huge difference. So I'm not sure whether the numbers aren't a little bit more precise, but between 2.5 and 3.6 million fewer people are employed. Now these numbers are old, and I think Pierre, you'll talk to us a little bit about why numbers are old right now. But I do want to say it's not entirely gloom and doom, because there are some fields that seem to be emerging in every country, and I'm sure we can predict what those are. But those are tech and data fields. Those are some medical fields. There are some new jobs that are on the rise in the United States, but these are not really careers. I think they're jobs. So they're like temperature checkers, as more and more people are going to get screened as they go into workplaces or schools. And then there's contact tracers, which apparently we've done since AIDS, but is now a thing for COVID. So that's the depressing world picture. I want to bring it back to DuPage County, and I want to ask you guys a little more generally, how the job market has been affected by COVID-19 and what does the job market look like. And Pierre, before we talk about the job market, would you mind explaining what I said about the statistics being a little bit off or just a little delayed here?
Yeah, when we look at employment data, it's collected and then it's released, and that creates a delay. So when we look at the most recent data, it's typically at least a month old, typically, or it's more than that in a lot of other big cases. But when we're looking at unemployment, things like that, that's only released monthly, at least here in the United States. So knowing that that is typically delayed. So today is July 27th as we're recording this. Mm-hmm. So the data that, the most recent data that we'll have is from June.
Right. And
so then, that's just kind of, something to keep in mind based off of when you're watching this as we're discussing. We'll look at the most recent information we have, but that's, at least a month old at this point, if not more so, depending on where that information is coming from.
Well, and that being said, let me go ahead and ask you, based on what you know and what statistics we have, how the job market's been impacted by COVID-19, and what the job market looks like now.
Yeah. So just from big picture general numbers, it's been struggling, right? That's an obvious. When we look at the United States, I think the unemployment rate went all the way up to 14.7%. Is Melissa?
Let me show you this handy screen I have, Pierre.
Okay. I'm trying to remember where it peaked out at there.
I don't.
And I'm talking national, so
nationally, yeah. So this is a map that's NBC has produced that goes state by state. So I'm not sure of our national numbers, but here, if you look at this map of Illinois, or if you look at the map of any state across the country, you can see that the numbers are, well, if we added up the total column. They didn't do that for us, darn it, NBC. I'm just kidding. These are the numbers, and you can see, for example, in Illinois, it's been a pretty steady unemployment rate until, as we see for everybody, on March 19th, right, things changed dramatically.
Yeah, so I just looked at my notes here. So in April, it peaked at 14.7% unemployment. And then when we looked at June, I wouldn't want to say it was recovering because that's, a long way to recover, but it was improving, and it got all the way back down to 11.1%. So that was at the end of June, but now that we're in July, we're seeing COVID numbers increase again. And where we're recording at, it's not impacted as some other areas of the nation, but I could see that unemployment number for July popping back up because those COVID numbers are spiking again.
Yeah. And our typical unemployment rate across the nation is about 3%.
It varies. 6 comes to mind.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah. I mean, and two, being that we're CRCs, we look a lot at, disability unemployment too. So those are the numbers that are jumping in my brain. And that'll be something that's interesting to look at over the coming year. I'm waiting to kind of see how people with disabilities have been impacted, in particular, because the unemployment rate for that population has always been really high. And what's also interesting too is the unemployment rate factors in those that are actively seeking employment are considered. So there might be individuals who lost their jobs, who maybe have already been on the fence about retiring or leaving the workforce, that aren't factored either. So we're not seeing maybe the entire picture of everyone that has lost their job in that unemployment rate.
If we're at 11%-ish, right, based on statistics, that means 89% of people-ish still are have jobs or are looking to switch. So how has COVID impacted the job market? I mean, we can say that unemployment's down, so we know that's one measure, but can people still get jobs in this market?
Definitely.
Mhm.
There's been a handful of people that we've met with, people that I know personally, that were either working and they found a new job, where they weren't working and they were able to find something. So there's still employers out there hiring, and it's not just in specific industries. There are certainly industries hotter than others, but there's plenty of opportunities as long as you approach your job search strategically.
Definitely. We pulled some numbers off of our job board. So locally, we've seen some statistics kind of shift. So the number one, in terms of top number of postings for our job board, is phlebotomy healthcare careers. We've seen jump up. Nationally, it's nursing. So pretty much anything in healthcare, we're seeing an increase in a need. And we even, as some of our employers slowed down in contacting us about opportunities, we did see an increase in healthcare, surgical technology. They were still hiring, still wanted to get connected with our students and our graduates, in particular on our job board. So we're seeing that.
And going back nationally, I did read this morning that so in June, it was reported, so we're looking at May data here, job posting was up by 15% from the previous month. So employers are posting more jobs.
So I know, I don't know if you guys have thought about this, but I know that there's this concern and a debate, and you can find articles that are for it and articles that say absolutely do not, but is COVID a good time to be looking for a job? Do you want to be pursuing a new position during the COVID era? Which is a weird question because we don't know how long it's going to last. So it might be the COVID era for 2 more years, right? Or, so what are your thoughts? If you've thought about it, maybe you don't have any thoughts on that.
I mean, it's really a personal choice. It depends on where you're working now. Are you enjoying that position? Is it suiting your needs, meeting your needs? And other individuals might not be able to find the opportunities that they're looking for at the moment, but they might seek alternate opportunities to keep their skills up to date and keep active. So it really kind of depends on the individual, I can't say broadly because everyone's needs are different and kind of what they're looking for.
Right. Is your driver, financial security, but not happiness, or is it happiness at all cost? And or there are other drivers. Pierre, were you going to add something before I?
Yeah, just as you think about that, if you are someone going through that process, it's, being aware of what is your motivation and being aware of what kind of step are you taking, what are you getting yourself into, right? Just because you're leaving a company that is secure and another company that is currently hiring doesn't mean that that company you're moving to is secure too. They may have other issues and you're now the low man on the totem pole. So there's a lot of factors to really think about, but it's certainly something that you can at least be working towards. Maybe you don't want to make that shift right away, right now, but you can be thinking about it. You can be preparing yourself. And that's what this time can be really helpful for, is making sure that you're setting aside time to evaluate where you see yourself going.
Okay.
And so kind of planning that process out.
Take a class, look at your motivation, understand what skills you already have to offer, which leads us to my next question. What kinds of skills, and are they different in general? What kinds of skills are employers looking for during COVID? I know there's some skills that aren't going to change no matter whether there's a pandemic going on or not. So can you talk about skills that are needed?
Sure. Yeah, Julia, you mentioned taking a class. So something we've heard from employers is, while the job market right now is a little crazy, things are uncertain, that doesn't mean you can't be doing anything. So, while on your resume or a cover letter, you could explain, for instance, if a student had an internship and all of a sudden their internship offer was revoked or, canceled because of the coronavirus, it's not good enough to just say, well, that happened and I didn't do anything. You still want to be active, taking classes, doing whatever you can to still keep your skills up to date, acquire new skills, and just show employers that you are motivated and driven. That's something we've heard. Make sure that you're filling in that gap in time with some sort of activity, even if it's not necessarily formal employment. But, you know, could you get a certification online? Are you participating in webinars? Are you taking online classes, volunteering, etc.?
Right. So you're saying you don't have to pay for a class. There's a lot of free resources out there. Our library, the COD library, if you're a resident of DuPage County, right, you can use lynda.com for training. I know I'm not pushing contact tracing, but I know that ECC, Elgin Community College, and that Johns Hopkins were offering a free contact tracing course. So you're not saying you have to pay to take a course, but develop skills somehow, somewhere.
Apply yourself in some way, you know, because when we think about those skills that those employers are seeking, we refer back to NACE quite often, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And why we refer to them is they survey employers out there and constantly, you know, pre-COVID, they were collecting this data, and during the COVID times, there may have been different emphasis on skill sets, but these skill sets have remained the same, and this is critical thinking, problem-solving skill sets, oral, written communication, teamwork, collaboration, leadership, work ethic, being able to work with multiple cultures, you know, being multicultural. So that I missed a few in there, but when we look at just being involved, if it's through volunteering, through a class, anything, it's helping you work on those skill sets. So across the board, those are going to be skill sets that employers are looking for. And it doesn't matter how you're involved, those are going to be skill sets that you can be demonstrating, that you can be enhancing, and could relate back to an employer through your interview, through your job search as you move forward.
Okay. Melissa, do you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to say, Pierre covered it pretty well, but those are skills that go with you from one job to the next. We commonly refer to them as transferable skills, oftentimes soft skills, just those employable qualities. And these are, so the National Association of Colleges and Employers consists of employers from all industries. And these are all competencies that they want. So
I'm going to, soft skills, soft skills get a bad rep, but it's really the hard skills that don't change, right? Hard skills stay the same from job to job, and soft skills are things that have to change wherever you go. And those are the things like interpersonal communication, right? You're not going to communicate to every group the same way. And so how are you going to show that you do that? But Pierre or Melissa, would you guys mind going one more time through that list that you remember of the NACE skills so people can get those in their head a little bit? What are the skills that employers are looking for? You said critical thinking?
Yeah, so I have the list of all 8 here. There's critical thinking and problem solving, oral and written communication, teamwork and collaboration, digital technology, which I want to talk about a little bit more, leadership, professionalism, work ethic, career management, and global intercultural fluency.
So not only should we be local, but we should be aware of the world beyond us, right? Mm-hmm. But most of those, out of those 8, I would say fully 5 of those, if not all of them, but fully 5 of them are that quote unquote soft skill thing where you have to know how to deal with people or interact. Melissa, did I cut you off? I'm sorry if I did. What were you going to say?
No, I was letting Pierre go through the list.
Okay. Pierre, you want to talk about one now, or you want to talk about the data now or later?
Yeah, so digital technology, I just wanted to kind of explain what that means. Like maybe the career management one needs a little bit explanation as well, because digital technology, it does relate back to Python, Java, and those digital skill sets, which are looked for, but it's much broader than that as well. It's being able to operate technology, and as we were talking about these other skill sets, being able to adjust them to a new setting. So if you say, at this company, I use this type of software, well, that company used that database system. Now you're at a different company that has a different database system. Can you adjust? So another term that's out there is being technology agile, and I think that describes it a lot better, being able to adjust with technology based off those different settings.
Okay, because not every, right, okay, great. Yeah. Well, so these are skills that, and hopefully these are skills that people are acquiring through whatever activities they're engaging in right now. Certainly, I like to think we do that in our classes at CUD. But I'm wondering if we're working on acquiring those skills, and you guys will help us talk about them if we come and see you and help us assess what we have. But I'm wondering too, if you go on a job interview, if you get a job interview, how has COVID impacted the way interviews happen now?
Yeah.
I got it. So obviously, during quarantine, as we call it, interviews were for the most part virtual. And even prior to the coronavirus, more and more employers were moving toward virtual platforms for interviewing just because it's more cost effective. They don't have to, if it's a position that's far away, they don't have to fly someone out. It's less time consuming. So a lot of employers were moving to video interviews. And when I say video, these could be live or pre-recorded. So employers, initially have what's called like the pre-screen or interview screen that HR would do and conduct over phone. So the phone screen, and they ask kind of those basic questions. Tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? And more employers have moved toward a recorded format where they send those questions to someone, and the candidate actually answers those questions, records them on video, and sends them back as a file. So that's a little bit different than a live interview. But all of the typical interview practices apply, professionalism, dress professionally, etc. I'll let Pierre add before I go on.
So just because you're doing this from your house with your phone or whatever recording device you have, you need to be as formal as if it were an in-person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are people hindered if people don't have access to technology? Do employers sort of work with you on that?
Yeah, I'd imagine it depends on the employer. Prior to coronavirus, I've had students, go to the library or reserve one of the quiet spaces in the library if they had an interview, and for whatever reason, maybe they were on campus and it was between classes, or maybe they don't have internet access at home, or their internet isn't as great and they're worried about their connection going out, so they would do it on campus. But now that could be a challenge if they don't have internet access, and libraries are closed.
Mm-hmm.
But I would imagine, or I would hope, an employer would work with that person. I fortunately haven't had a student come into that issue, or they haven't communicated that to me. So I just, I don't have that experience to speak on right now.
Okay. No, and I'm not trying to, I'm just thinking as I learn things from you guys.
Sure.
Pierre, you were going to say something for a minute there?
Just how you phrased that earlier question about how they're doing interviews now, just to kind of emphasize that point that Melissa did, it is how they're being functioned right now. It's not about the interview themselves changing too much, because the process, your preparation, that is all really the same. It's just these different settings, these virtual settings that have been becoming more common. And then to that second point, just agreeing that companies are probably going to be a little bit more flexible, but we don't see that too much as far as, I can't do this at all. So that may be because companies are working with the applicants before they even come to us to help us work through that. But if you do have a company that isn't going to be flexible with you, my advice would be, don't worry. You don't want to be with a company that's not going to provide that flexibility.
Okay. And so there's that. That's a good lesson too, or a good thought. And I guess I'm also thinking about this idea of being professional. So again, the same things apply. Don't show up in your pajamas, right?
You still want to be dressed head to toe, and
yes,
it's all important.
You still have to prepare. You can't just say, "Hey, it's me, Julia, and I really like your company and I want to work for it." You need to have in your head what your message is and why they should hire you. So, okay. Well, so I think that brings us to another question then. What tips and advice do you have for people looking for jobs at this time? And then I think, what actions can people be taking at this time? So I think I'm just going to let you two kind of handle that, and I'm going to back away for a second. So
I'll start off just kind of going back to this idea of the career management from those NACE competencies and kind of describe what that means. That career management is awareness of yourself and how you kind of fit into that world of work and how you match up to those needs of the employer, right? Do you have a long-term plan and being able to apply yourself? So it ties a lot into self-awareness, being aware of what your skill sets are, how you match in to what the employer needs. But that is the first step to any segment of job searching is self-awareness. You have to know what you can contribute to that employer. So making sure that you're taking time, especially if during COVID, you aren't going out, you're not doing all these activities that would distract yourself from being able to self-reflect. You take that time to really understand what you've been doing in the past, where you see yourself going, so then you can communicate that more professionally. If that's on your resume, LinkedIn, interviewing, that self-reflection piece will transfer over to all those areas.
Self-reflection, inventory. I think a lot of people think what they do is just normal. So I think it would be good to come and talk to you guys about why what they do isn't normal or what that means in terms of who they are as a worker, though. So I like that. Yeah, but knowing ourselves best. Melissa, I said I was going to back out, but it's impossible for me to do that.
That's okay.
So please go on, Melissa. Pick up Pierre's thread there.
Yeah, I was going to say the self-reflection piece is it's really important, and obviously, you kind of want to know what it is that you want, but a lot of times we have job seekers that come to us that don't realize what it is that they have to offer, or they have almost tunnel vision. They're very focused on one particular job because they think that is the one thing that they can fit into, and they don't realize all of the other skill sets or all of these other competencies that employers are looking for across the board. And so we help individuals create kind of that professional brand or recognize that professional brand and how they could fit in. We don't do career matching by any means, but we help them to recognize that they have skill sets beyond what they're looking for. And I think that's incredibly important during this time, because you might have one idea of what you can do, and those jobs may no longer be plentiful. So what's important is to be flexible and to adapt and to identify other areas you would be open to. That's incredibly important right now. While the job that you ultimately desire may not be there at the moment, you could still be doing something similar to keep those skills up to date and stay involved. So when the opportunities do come back, you're ready to go, you're active, and so on. So being flexible, but also being more aware, self-aware broadly, so that you can open those opportunities up for yourself.
Yeah, when you're searching for a job, you want to remember that you're really going through a sales process, right? You're selling yourself to that employer. So if it is volunteering right now because you are unemployed and you can't find that job, or you're making a shift to something because you have to leave what you're currently in for whatever situation, and it's not exactly what you want to get into and you see it as a stepping stone, just remembering that as you move forward, you want to be talking about those experiences, about how they prepared you for that ultimate goal, through that long term. So being able to reflect on your past and be able to communicate it, not as here's what I did, but here's how it prepared me for what you're seeking.
Exactly. And we have a lot of job seekers that come to us that have applied for jobs. Maybe they got through an interview, multiple round, and they didn't get the offer. And they'll tell us, I was a perfect fit for that position. And while that might be the case, almost everyone that applies and that they're interviewing also, we're a match for the position. That's why they're interviewing them. So you have to figure out, how can I communicate to the employer how I can contribute? How can I help you? It's not just about skill matching, but how can you put those skills into action? And, again, this applies whether we're, in the state of coronavirus right now or not. You still have to be able to articulate those things to an employer, regardless of what the job is. Some other tips, though, for job searching during this time. don't forget your network. You know, even though we're not with people in person, there's LinkedIn. Utilize your professional network. And it's not necessarily about asking for opportunities, but getting information, staying informed, staying up to date. That will help you get job leads. Networking is still the #1 way to get a job lead, despite postings being online. So having conversations with people, getting advice from people, and seeing how they can help you along the way.
What do you say to students or other non-students also looking for jobs who say, that's just so manipulative. I don't want people to think I'm using them. I mean, I just want to talk to people and be myself. And how do you diffuse that? Because I don't think you're saying use people, and I don't think you're saying be opportunistic. You are saying be informed, but how do you get job seekers to realize that they are their own best resource, right? But I mean, like, so, you know, help me out. How would I say to a student, no, you're not manipulating or using people?
Sure. Well, we commonly refer to networking, and that is often intimidating because people initially go to, okay, it's going to be me asking for something of someone. And, you know, I'm uncomfortable with that, or how do I do that? There are a lot of different ways you can approach networking, and it's not necessarily asking for something from someone. It's just starting a conversation, and it's relationship building. And it also doesn't happen overnight either. So if you go in with this, you know, daunting vision in mind of you just asking for a job, you know, that's usually where you get crickets. People don't respond because no one can hand you a job. But if you go in asking them about their experience, most people, if they love what they do, they will love talking about it with someone else. And so that's where you can engage in that conversation. And there are all different ways that you can approach that on LinkedIn. It's not just about connection requests. We talk about that, you know, in our LinkedIn webinars. I'll let Pierre jump into that a little bit as well. But it's just information gathering, not asking, hey, do you have an opportunity available?
I like that. Your information gathering. Now, what you do with that information is up to you, but you are there to gather. I like that. Okay. I mean, that helps me too. Thank you. Pierre, you're going to jump in on Melissa's comment?
Yeah.
That's what Melissa said.
So the idea of networking, right, it's really about the long-term game. So just to kind of give an example, my cousin, he teaches sports management at NIU. Go Huskies, NIU alum here. But he engages with the local areas and the sporting teams and what they have going on, because he wants to connect to students, not to get them a job, but so then they have a connection, right? There's this idea of planned happenstance, where when you go out there and you network, so building off this example, if a student takes advantage of his connections and they go ahead and do a shadow at 5 different ball clubs, he's not doing it to get a job there. He's doing it to establish himself, show his skill sets, be able to build a network of connections. He's not manipulating them at all. He's getting to know the industry. He's getting to know these people. And this idea of planned happenstance, well, now because they know him, he put himself out there. It just happens when they have an opportunity, they'll think of him, right? Because that is putting yourself out there. That's the whole idea of networking, being able to establish those connections. And as Melissa mentioned, we have various webinars throughout that are available to everyone, where we dive deep into LinkedIn, resumes, all those different resources to help people through this process.
I was just going to ask, where can people find you? Because you're clearly not on the campus. So, and you do have a series of webinars. You've got, or not webinar, well, you probably have webinars now, but I mean, I've seen your presentations, I've heard presentations, and you have ways of helping people figure out those skills, identifying those skills, understanding the value of the skills they have to offer, seeing the skills they didn't realize they had. You've got all kinds of resources. So where can people find you guys? And how do we, and I know that you're available to any District 502 resident for free, correct?
Yes.
Who can get help, if anybody who's retooling, anybody who's rethinking it. So how do we avail ourselves of your services?
Yeah, all the services that we were providing before COVID, before we went remote, are basically being offered now. We still meet with people one-on-one. It's obviously virtual. So you could just reach out to our office email, and the setting's best. So that's csc@cod.edu. We do weekly webinars. So if you just go to the Career Services website, you could find the registration link. So then you can get that. And we're doing that weekly now. They do have designated topics, but we also encourage people to just come with any questions, because pre-COVID we were doing walk-ins. That's really hard to offer in this setting. So we're just kind of substituting that with these webinars as workshops / come and ask your questions, walk-in type thing.
Are you guys still doing mock interviews then? Online mock interviews?
Yeah.
So anybody who's nervous about going to an interview can check out Career Services, the Career Services Center website, and
yeah, that would be part of our one-on-one appointments. We also have a resource called Interview Stream. So Melissa earlier was talking about, as employers have gone digital, there's these two types of interviews, right? There's still those virtual one-on-ones, but there's these on-demand interviews that have been becoming more and more popular, where they would want you to record your response to these interview questions, and the employer would go back and watch them at their convenience. And we do have something called Interview Stream. So if you go to cod.interviewstream.com, that's available to everyone that has access to the internet. It's not limited to our students, but you could go in there, you can select from the thousands of interview questions on there, record your response, go back, watch it yourself, or send it off to other people to get feedback. So as we think about this virtual shift, we've got a lot of resources to really mirror what that job seeking process will look like.
And available to any district of 502.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
And the thing about Interview Stream too is not only does it help you practice your interview skills, you can practice your technology so that you're not going into an interview with an employer first thing hoping your technology works. You can kind of play around with it, get used to your camera, how do you look on camera, your lighting, is there a glare, any of that ahead of the official interview. So Interview Stream is a great resource right now. And, I tell students practice, you could send it to me, but a number of students will practice themselves and then send it to me when they're ready for review. So you could do a couple questions, a ton of questions. So it's really customizable for people to practice.
Okay. I will say, in general, I have worked with Pierre several times. I can't believe you've only been here 3 years. I feel like we go so far back. I've seen Pierre through his short hair days, his long hair days, and now we're back here. And Melissa, I've worked on a couple of things as well. So I just can't say enough good about Career Services, and I think you guys are an undervalued, not by COD, but I just mean, I think people forget you're here and you offer great services. I'm gonna stop singing your praises though, which I could do for a while, and ask you, if you had just were running this interview and I weren't here, what sort of final thoughts would you have or what would you have wanted to say that maybe I didn't get to in talking to you guys?
I would say stay active. And what I mean by that is make sure that your digital brand is up to date. Don't let your LinkedIn go stale, update it, keep updating your resume, keep researching opportunities, because just because something isn't posted one day doesn't mean it's not posted the next day. So you can still be doing things despite everything being uncertain or very different. You can still do things yourself to keep advancing your career forward.
So you guys have both mentioned LinkedIn more than once. Are you saying LinkedIn is a key bit?
Definitely.
Okay. So that's one of the seminars you all are going to come and take from Melissa and Pierre and the rest of the staff. Pierre, what kind of final parting thoughts do you have for us?
Do that self-reflection, right? That we talked about it a lot through here, but do that self-reflection. Focus in on those skill sets. Skills are extremely important, right? Employers want people that can perform the job, but you perform your job through your skill sets. And there was actually executive order signed June 26th. So about a month ago. There's not too much out there on it right now, but it's really shifting federal hiring to not emphasize education, but skill sets.
Do you have an inventory sheet at Career Services that people can sort of take a look at, or can they just find some online, or you're just...
So I was going to mention we have another tool called Career Coach, which is a great tool to research careers. So it's not necessarily going to be a skill inventory, but individuals can take an interest inventory and kind of go through and see what careers align with their interests or the activities that they enjoy. And that is totally free. You don't need an account. And individuals can also just go in there and do a keyword search for careers to just see information about careers, related careers. So again, when I mentioned that tunnel vision earlier, they can go there and research and see, well, what other careers relate? And it has data in there from employers, job outlook to salary. So what, is the earning potential, but also what skills are employers looking for? So just making sure that you're informed about the types of jobs that you will be seeking. You want to have all of that information so that it's also easier to talk about in an interview when you know what it is that they're looking for and what you have that matches. You can, use that career database. So Career Coach is a great resource.
So you're fully on board with Pierre's parting advice of know thyself, right? Do that inventory. So Pierre, we kind of cut you off in the middle. Were you done with your final parting thoughts for us?
Just communicating that idea that the federal government through their hiring has put a stronger emphasis on skill sets, right? Looking at people that are qualified for that job through their abilities and not just, oh, I have a bachelor's degree in some random thing, but really, do you have those skill sets that are needed? And going back to this idea of career coach and the idea we discussed earlier, it's about communicating how your past has prepared you for what you're looking for. Go on to Career Coach, research those jobs, identify what you're looking for. So then through your self-reflection, you can be communicating those skill sets that the employer is looking for, right? So it's first knowing yourself, then seeing what the employer needs, and then looking for that match.
Okay. And as Melissa said, keeping your profile up to date, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy for one thing that I have learned now that there is a major in random thing, Pierre. I wish that it existed when I was going to school. When you said, I've just majored in some random thing. All right, my little joke has failed. Should we edit it? I'm kidding. All right. Thank you both very much. I think there's a lot more that Pierre and Melissa could say and the career services staff. So check them out. Oh my gosh, I think more people should be using our career. We have great people there. So and thank you guys for the perspective on jobs and COVID.
You're welcome. Yeah, and there are 2 more career specialists as well. So we're just half the team.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us to do this. We enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, me too, very much. All right, bye.